The alien princess couldn't believe it. Wait, I'm your mate now. You're joking, right? Today was meant to be an ordinary day of preparation for a diplomatic ceremony, but Alara could not shake the uneasy feeling in her chest. Something felt different. She adjusted her flowing blue robes and glanced at the city below. The Lithurian capital was always full of activity, with citizens moving between markets, gardens, and learning halls. Hovercars zipped through the air quietly, leaving trails of sparkling energy behind. Everything was orderly and beautiful, yet Alara's thoughts were elsewhere. "What is it today, Alara?" her assistant Lyra asked, floating beside her. "You look restless," Alara sighed. "I don't know, Lyra, it's as if something is about to happen. Something I cannot see." She turned her eyes toward the horizon, watching the pink clouds shift over the distant mountains. Lyra smiled knowingly. "Princess, you always feel things. Perhaps it's your intuition speaking, or perhaps it's just the excitement of the ceremony." Alara shook her head, a small frown forming. "No, this is different. I can feel it in my chest. It's unusual." Before Lyra could respond, an alert sounded through the palace. A soft chime, then a holographic display projected from the balcony railing. Alara leaned closer. The alert showed an object approaching Lithuria's orbit, a starship of unknown origin. "What is that?" Alara asked, curiosity and alarm mixed in her voice. Lyra's eyes widened. "It does not match any known Lithurian design. Princess, it may be human." Alara froze. Humans were creatures of legend to the Lithurians. They were said to live on a distant, small planet called Earth, centuries away in light years. Humans had been considered primitive, curious beings, often underestimated, but no one had seen one in person for generations. And now one was in Lithurian orbit. The palace's observation deck lit up with activity. Alara watched as technicians scanned the ship, checking its speed, energy, and origin. She felt her heart beat faster. Why would a human come to Lithuria? Was it an accident? Or something else? Lyra noticed her nervousness. "Princess, shall we inform the council?" Alara shook her head. "Not yet. I want to see them myself first." A few hours later, Alara quietly made her way to the palace's private observation deck. The floor was made of crystal panels that reflected the stars and the approaching ship. She looked through the wide viewing glass and saw the human ship. It was small but elegant, with smooth, shiny surfaces that glimmered in the sunlight. And inside she saw him, the human. He was unlike any Lithurian she had ever seen. His hair was dark and slightly messy, his eyes bright and curious. He seemed completely relaxed, gazing around the ship with a mixture of awe and delight. He smiled at the controls, laughing softly to himself as if the universe were a playground. Alara felt a strange pull in her chest. He was bold, unafraid, and utterly different from the cautious, graceful beings she knew. Lyra whispered from behind her, "Princess, he is not hiding his presence. He seems friendly, almost fearless." Alara frowned, but a small smile tugged at her lips. "And he is human, how bold." Suddenly, the holographic prophecy chamber in the palace lit up on its own. The ancient text shimmered in gold light. Alara frowned at the sudden activation. No one had used it for centuries. The hologram showed a figure standing in a glowing circle with symbols surrounding them. The text spoke in Lithurian language. "The destined mate of Princess Alara shall arrive from a distant world. The one whose heart is brave, whose mind is pure, shall be your companion and partner in all things." Alara blinked, startled. This cannot be real. It must be a mistake." Lyra looked at her in awe. "Princess, could it be?" Alara shook her head. "No, it is impossible. Humans are not meant to be here, not like this. This prophecy, it's old, centuries old. It must be malfunctioning." But the prophecy's glow continued to pulse. Sensors in the palace confirmed the presence of the human. The system had matched him to the prophecy. Alara took a deep breath. I need to see him." With that, she activated the palace's transporter chamber and quietly traveled to the landing area. The human ship had already touched down, and the human stepped out into Lithurian sunlight, shielding his eyes against the brightness. He looked around, seemingly fascinated by everything. The delicate structures, the floating bridges, the crystal towers. It was a world completely different from his own. He stepped forward carefully and then he froze. Alara appeared before him, standing tall and composed, though her heart raced. She was dressed in her ceremonial blue robes, a symbol of her royal status. The human blinked at her. Then a wide smile spread across his face. "Hi," he said cheerfully. "I'm Ethan. I guess I'm here now. Is this Lithuria?" Alara's eyes widened. You are human." "Yes, this is Lithuria." Her voice was firm, yet she could not hide the surprise. "How did you come here?" Ethan scratched the back of his head, a sheepish grin on his face. "Well, honestly, I was exploring space and this place popped up on my map. I didn't expect anyone to be, well, anyone royal." Alara's frown deepened. "You do not understand. Humans are not meant to be part of this world." Ethan chuckled softly. "Yeah, I guess I'm breaking some rules, huh?" Before Alara could respond, the holographic prophecy shimmered once more. The text expanded and a golden line connected Ethan's figure to Alara's. The words glowed clearly. "The destined mate of Princess Alara is here." Alara stepped back, blinking rapidly. "Wait, what?" That is impossible." Ethan looked at her confused. "Mate, wait, are you joking?" Alara's face turned pale. "I am not joking. The prophecy, it names you as my companion, my destined mate." Ethan laughed, holding his hands up. Okay, let's just slow down. You're telling me I'm your mate, right now. This is real." Alara ran her hands through her hair, trying to calm herself. "Yes, it is real. The prophecy does not lie. You are chosen." Ethan's eyes widened and then he grinned. "Wow, I mean, that's incredible. I never imagined something like this. But does that mean I get a crown too?" Alara stared at him, torn between irritation and amusement. "This is not a joke, human. This is a serious matter of tradition and destiny." Ethan nodded earnestly, then added with a laugh, "Got it." "Serious? I'll be serious, I think." Alara couldn't help but shake her head. "I cannot believe this. How can this be?" Ethan tilted his head and studied her. "Well, princess, maybe it's just fate. Maybe humans have a role here that no one expected. And I don't know, maybe we can figure it out together." Alara's chest tightened. There was something undeniably refreshing about his approach. Unlike the Lithurians, who were always precise, careful, and bound by protocol, he seemed fearless, cheerful, and kind. Lyra whispered beside her, "Princess, perhaps this is not only fate, perhaps this is an opportunity." Alara took a deep breath, staring at Ethan. "An opportunity, yes. Perhaps you are right, but this will not be easy. You must learn our ways, our rules, our world." Ethan smiled warmly. "I'm ready, teach me, I want to learn. And if it's okay, I'd like to start being your friend first." Alara hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Very well, friend." Ethan's face lit up. "Friend it is, and then maybe more, but only if you like." Alara felt a strange flutter in her chest. She could not deny it. There was something about this human that made her world feel different, exciting, alive. As the sun set over Lithuria, casting the city in shimmering gold and pink, Princess Alara and Ethan stood side by side, two very different beings beginning an unexpected journey together. For the first time, Alara realized that sometimes destiny comes in the most surprising forms, and courage comes in the smallest, most human smiles. And so began the story of a princess, a human, and the bond that would challenge everything she thought she knew about her world and about herself. Princess Alara stood quietly beside Ethan in the great palace hall. The tall crystal pillars glowed softly, and the polished floors reflected their shapes like mirrors. Many Lithurians gathered around them, whispering curiously. They had never seen a human before. They had never seen their calm and serious princess stand beside someone so cheerful and relaxed. Ethan looked around like an excited traveler in a new world. Everything amazed him. the floating lights, the elegant architecture, the gentle hum of Lithurian technology. He smiled every few seconds, and every smile seemed to surprise the court even more. Lithurians were calm and graceful. Ethan was bright and expressive. The royal council members arrived, wearing shining robes. Their eyes rested on Ethan with curiosity and confusion. They were polite but uncertain. For centuries, Lithuria believed humans were simple beings from a small world. Now, one stood before them as the supposed destined partner of their princess. One council member stepped forward. He spoke kindly but carefully, asking Ethan questions about Earth. Ethan answered honestly. He talked about oceans, forests, families, creativity, dreams, and human hope. He explained that humans were not perfect but always tried to do better. His voice was simple, but there was warmth in every word. As he spoke, the hall grew quiet. The Lithurians listened closely. They saw that Ethan was not weak or foolish. He was different, yes, but full of heart. Alara watched him too. She noticed how naturally he spoke about kindness and teamwork. He did not try to impress anyone. He was simply himself. It made her feel something unusual comfort. After the meeting, Alara guided Ethan through the palace. The halls were lined with glowing symbols and peaceful murals. Ethan walked beside her, looking like a happy child discovering magic. He asked gentle questions. What did different symbols mean? How did Lithurians learn? What did they value most in life? Alara answered carefully at first, but slowly she relaxed. It felt surprisingly easy to talk to him. He was respectful, but he was also playful. When she explained something serious, he responded with thoughtful interest, sometimes adding a small joke that made her smile without realizing. They reached the Sky Gardens, the most beautiful place in the palace. Floating walkways crossed between tall crystal trees. Flowers shimmered like tiny stars, and calm streams of glowing water moved beneath them. The air felt soft and warm. Ethan stopped, eyes wide. "This is the most beautiful place I have ever seen," he whispered softly. Alara watched his expression. There was no greed or pride in it, only pure wonder. She felt proud of her world in a new way, as if she was seeing it through his eyes. They walked slowly along the path. Ethan bent slightly to observe a floating flower. The flower gently rotated, reacting to his movement. He laughed softly in amazement. Alara found herself laughing too, something she rarely did in formal spaces. She finally spoke about the prophecy. She explained how old it was, how deeply it mattered, and how confusing this all was for her. Her voice carried honesty. She admitted she was unsure, even afraid of such a sudden fate. Ethan listened carefully. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he smiled gently. He told her he did not want to force destiny on anyone. He said maybe the prophecy did not mean control. Maybe it meant possibility. Maybe it meant two different worlds learning from each other. Maybe it meant companionship built slowly, with respect, not pressure. His words surprised Alara. Many Lithurians always followed tradition without question, but Ethan suggested something new, choice within destiny. It sounded strange yet meaningful. Over the next days, they spent more time together. Alara showed Ethan the learning halls, where young Lithurians studied science, art, culture, and emotion. Ethan joined a class discussion. He shared how humans solve problems by trying, failing, trying again, and never giving up. The students listened with shining eyes. They were used to perfection and structure. Hearing about effort and learning through mistakes opened new thoughts for them. In the city, people slowly grew curious rather than doubtful. Ethan thanked everyone warmly. He helped elders carry small tech devices even when he did not fully understand them. He played with Lithurian children by making funny faces, and their laughter echoed across the parks. He did little things, but they mattered. People began to smile when they saw him. Alara observed everything quietly. She noticed how quickly Ethan adapted. He respected their culture, yet he brought his own warmth into it. He didn't try to change Lithuria with force or pride. Instead, he gently added humanity to their world, friendship, humor, and humble kindness. The council eventually arranged gentle compatibility activities for them. Nothing harsh, nothing dangerous, just explorations, discussions, and teamwork challenges. Ethan and Alara had to solve creative puzzles. Lithurians usually solved everything with logic and exact calculation. Ethan approached differently. He mixed logic with imagination. Sometimes his unusual ideas worked better than expected. Sometimes he laughed at his own mistakes, and that laugh removed pressure from the room. Even Alara felt lighter when he was around. Slowly, she started to trust him. She began to enjoy talking to him. She found herself looking for him in the palace halls, curious what new thought he might share. At night, she sometimes remembered his words and smiled silently to herself. Ethan, in turn, learned about Alara. He saw her strong sense of duty, her gentle heart, and her quiet worries. He admired how deeply she cared for her people. He respected her intelligence. He spoke kindly about her whenever others asked about her. He never treated her like just a prophecy figure. He treated her like a person. One evening they stood again in the sky gardens. The Lithurian sky glowed softly with calming colors and the city sparkled peacefully. A soft breeze moved through the glowing leaves. The world felt calm. Ethan turned to her and said softly that he was grateful to be there, not because a prophecy chose him, but because he got to know her and her world. He told her he hoped that whether destiny wanted them together or not, they would at least remain important to each other's journeys. Alara felt a warmth in her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Everyone always saw a princess. Ethan saw a person. For the first time, she did not feel trapped by the prophecy. She felt curious about it, curious in a hopeful way. She looked at him and admitted honestly that she still could not fully accept the idea of destiny binding them yet, but she no longer rejected it completely. She said she wanted to give time a chance. She wanted to see where understanding, friendship, trust, and shared experiences could lead. Ethan nodded happily as if this was the best answer possible, not forced, not rushed, just real. The palace lights glowed softly around them. Lithuria was peaceful. Two different beings stood side by side, not as strangers anymore, but not yet as something defined. Something gentle and growing filled the space between them. It was not sudden love. It was not forced fate. It was something healthier, warmer, and beautifully human: connection. Alara looked at the stars stretching above the city and quietly realized something important. Maybe the prophecy did not bring Ethan to control her life. Maybe it brought him to add something new to it. Maybe this strange, smiling human was not here to change who she was, but to help her see new colors in her already beautiful world. Alara woke early that morning, the soft glow of Lithuria's sun spilling across her bedroom. She stretched, her thoughts already drifting toward Ethan. Since his arrival, her days had become brighter, full of curiosity and laughter she had not felt in years. Yet beneath the excitement, a quiet tension lingered. The Lithurian Council had suggested gentle trials to understand whether the prophecy's words could truly hold meaning. Today was the first of those trials. Ethan was waiting in the palace courtyard when she arrived. He waved enthusiastically, his dark hair catching the light. He looked excited but calm, as though challenges were nothing more than opportunities to learn. Alara felt a small flutter in her chest. Despite her initial hesitation, she could not help but smile at him. "Good morning, Princess," Ethan said, bowing lightly in his own human way, which made Alara chuckle. "Ready for whatever today has in store for us?" Alara nodded. "I am, but remember, these are more than just games. They are tests of compatibility and understanding. They matter." Ethan grinned. "I promise I'll take them seriously, mostly." The first trial took place in the Hollow Chamber, a large, circular room where floating holograms projected scenarios and puzzles. The first task was simple for the Lithurians, a series of logic challenges that required precise sequencing and exact calculation. Alara expected Ethan to struggle, but she quickly saw his approach was different, yet effective. Instead of following the sequence strictly, he combined observation with experimentation. When a holographic sequence seemed impossible, he tried new patterns, sometimes laughing softly at his errors, then adjusting. Alara watched closely, impressed. This human thought differently, but he solved problems with creativity and calm determination. When they completed the first challenge, the chamber transformed into a simulation of a bridge crossing over a glowing river. The task was to transport a group of holographic Lithurians safely across without breaking any rules of balance. Lithurians would calculate every step mathematically. Ethan, however, observed the entire scene first, then experimented, testing each movement intuitively. Alara felt a mix of disbelief and admiration. He succeeded in a way that the Lithurians had never anticipated. The council members watching the trial exchanged whispers. Some were skeptical, but others began to smile. They could not deny the humans' ingenuity. During the breaks between challenges, Alara and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. Alara asked him about his world, about Earth, about the humans' way of thinking. Ethan described it honestly, sharing stories of mistakes, inventions, teamwork, and hope. He spoke of friendship and courage in ordinary life, and how humans often learned by trying, failing, and trying again. Alara listened, fascinated. These were not lessons of power or control, they were lessons of heart. The humans' resilience, their kindness, their optimism, it all seemed simple yet powerful. Slowly, she began to see how someone so different could truly complement her world. The next trial focused on ethics and empathy. Holographic simulations presented dilemmas where characters faced tough choices. Alara observed how Ethan approached them. He always paused, considering the feelings of each character. He asked questions like, "What do they want? How can we help everyone?" rather than choosing the easiest or most obvious solution. The Lithurians, used to following rules strictly, often chose the most logical path. Ethan's choices were different, but the outcomes were often better, balancing fairness, kindness, and practicality. Alara's heart stirred as she realized that perhaps the prophecy was not only about destiny, but also about partnership. Ethan's way of thinking could teach her people, just as Lithurians could teach him. In the afternoon, they walked along the palace's floating walkways. The city sparkled below, rivers of light moving between towers. Ethan pointed out small details he found beautiful, the patterns of light, the gentle movement of the breeze, the laughter of children below. Alara followed his gaze and began to notice things she had overlooked in her own city. She felt a strange warmth. He helped her see her world in a new way. Ethan asked about Lithurian history and culture. Alara explained with patience, telling him about the royal lineage, the traditions, the celebrations, and the values they cherished. He listened with genuine interest, asking questions that were thoughtful, sometimes amusing, and always respectful. He never dismissed their culture, even when he jokingly admitted he did not fully understand it. As evening approached, the final challenge of the day began. It was a test of teamwork and creativity. The hollow chamber projected a scenario where Alara and Ethan had to design a solution for a community in need. Alara expected to lead, as was her role, but Ethan suggested they work together equally, combining Lithurian logic with human ingenuity. Alara hesitated, unused to sharing authority. Yet she tried his approach. To her surprise, the results were impressive. Their combined efforts created a plan that was efficient, creative, and considerate. She felt a sense of pride and relief. Ethan's perspective was not a threat, it was a gift. After the trials, they walked quietly through the gardens. The stars began to shine softly in the Lithurian sky. Ethan turned to Alara and said, Princess, I know I am just a human and this prophecy, it sounds like a lot. But today, I felt like I really got to see your world, and I hope I made it better somehow. Alara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the soft starlight. You did more than that. You reminded me that our world is not only about rules and tradition, it is also about understanding, kindness, and creativity. Perhaps, perhaps the prophecy was not only about choosing a mate. Perhaps it was about showing me something I could not see before. Ethan smiled gently. Maybe we both learn from each other. Maybe that is what this journey is really about. Alara nodded slowly. For the first time, she did not feel the weight of destiny pressing on her chest. She felt curiosity, hope, and a gentle excitement. The human beside her was different, but in a way that mattered. He brought light, laughter, and courage. He brought humanity. In the quiet night, as the stars shimmered above, they continued walking, talking softly about dreams, discoveries, and small wonders. Alara felt a growing sense of connection. She realized that perhaps fate had chosen Ethan not to change her, but to help her see her own strength and the beauty of her world in a new light. The palace was calm, but inside Alara, something was shifting. She could not yet define it, nor could she predict the future. But she felt certain of one thing. This human, with his laughter, curiosity, and gentle heart, had already left a mark on her life. And as Ethan spoke about stars, oceans, and possibilities far beyond Lithuria, Alara found herself smiling in agreement. Not as a princess following prophecy, but as someone beginning to embrace friendship, trust, and the wonder of the unexpected. By the time they returned to the palace, the city below glimmered with soft light. Citizens moved quietly, unaware of the quiet transformation taking place at the heart of the royal palace. Alara and Ethan shared a glance, an understanding passing between them. Neither needed words. They were learning together, discovering together, and facing a future full of possibilities side by side. For Alara, the day had been more than trials and lessons. It had been a glimpse into something new, an idea that partnership could be gentle, exciting, and meaningful. For Ethan, it had been a chance to connect, to contribute, and to see a world unlike any he had ever imagined. And as they walked through the moonlit gardens, the soft breeze carrying the fragrance of glowing flowers, both realized that this journey was just beginning. The prophecy had brought them together, but what they would build together, with understanding, laughter, and shared courage, was something no prophecy could predict. The morning sun painted Lithuria in soft shades of gold and pink as Alara made her way to the palace gardens. She moved with quiet grace, but her mind was busy. The past few days with Ethan had been unlike anything she had ever experienced. His cheerful curiosity, his gentle humor, and his unexpected wisdom had already begun to change her perspective. Ethan was waiting for her near the central fountain, his dark hair catching the sunlight and his eyes sparkling with energy. He waved as she approached, his grin infectious. Alara felt a small smile tug at her lips despite herself. "Good morning, Princess," he said lightly. "I hope you're ready for another day of excitement." Alara shook her head, laughing softly. "I'm beginning to wonder if you ever take anything seriously." Ethan shrugged with mock innocence. "I am serious about enjoying life." Alara rolled her eyes but felt a warmth in her chest. They walked together through the gardens, the soft breeze carrying the fragrance of glowing flowers. For the first time, Alara realized that sharing a simple moment with someone could feel so extraordinary. Today, the council had arranged a new type of challenge. It was not about puzzles or simulations, but about real-life problem-solving. The palace had discovered that a small section of the city needed help with organizing a community festival. The task was simple: help the citizens plan an event that was beautiful, safe, and meaningful. But there was a catch. They had to work together, and their solutions would be evaluated not only for effectiveness but for creativity and harmony. Alara hesitated. Usually she would oversee every detail, ensuring perfection. but Ethan suggested they work side by side, each contributing ideas freely. She agreed, curious to see how his perspective might help. They arrived at the community square where a small group of citizens waited, looking hopeful but slightly uncertain. Ethan bowed politely. "Hello, everyone. We're here to help make your festival wonderful." Alara observed how naturally he engaged with the people. He asked them about their traditions, their favorite games, their wishes for the event. He listened carefully, making notes and smiling at their ideas. Alara followed, initially cautious but gradually easing into conversation herself. The citizens began to warm to them. Alara noticed the children laughing as Ethan demonstrated a simple juggling trick, using glowing orbs he had brought from his ship. Even the elders smiled, charmed by his enthusiasm and respect. Alara realized something important. Ethan did not try to control the situation. He offered suggestions, listened to others, and encouraged creativity. He respected traditions but was not afraid to add small improvements. She had never seen anyone approach problem-solving like this. It was effective but also kind. Together, they organized the festival. Ethan suggested new decorations that blended human creativity with Lithurian elegance. Alara added elements of tradition and ceremony, ensuring the festival remained meaningful. They discussed each step, weighing options, and sometimes laughing when their ideas seemed too ambitious. By the afternoon, the festival began. Citizens gathered, amazed at the harmony of colors, lights, and music. Children played in safe areas, elders enjoyed the performances, and families shared meals under floating lanterns. Alara watched Ethan move among the people, helping quietly, cheering gently, and laughing freely. She realized that his presence brought out the best in everyone. As the sun set, painting the sky in deep shades of orange and purple, Ethan and Alara walked along the elevated walkways overlooking the city. The festival lights reflected like stars across the streets. Alara felt a quiet joy she had never known before. "You did well today," she said softly, glancing at him. "You helped people in ways I did not expect. It was impressive." Ethan laughed lightly. "I just tried to be helpful. I guess humans sometimes see things differently, but it worked because we did it together." Alara nodded. "Yes, together. That is the key, isn't it? You see value in cooperation, in listening and understanding others, not just rules or tradition." Ethan's expression grew thoughtful. "I think that's true for humans too. We're not perfect, but we try to learn, to care, to do better. And sometimes, having someone else by your side makes all the difference." Alara looked at him, her heart stirring. She had always believed that strength came from skill, intelligence, or power. But now she realized that courage, kindness, and understanding could be just as strong, maybe even stronger. Ethan embodied these qualities naturally, without effort or pride. That evening, the council invited them to a quiet hall for reflection. They spoke about the day's events, discussing what had worked, what could be improved, and how people had responded. Alara noticed how carefully Ethan considered each comment. He asked questions, not to challenge authority, but to understand perspectives better. He suggested improvements gently, always mindful of respect. Alara felt a growing admiration for him. His way of thinking complemented her own. He challenged her to see things differently without undermining her authority. He inspired her to think creatively while honoring the past. For the first time, she felt that prophecy might not be a burden but a guide, a way to explore new possibilities. Later, Alara and Ethan walked through the quiet palace corridors. The moonlight filtered through crystal windows, casting soft patterns on the floor. Ethan looked at her with a gentle smile. "Princess," he said softly, "I know this prophecy, it's important, but I want you to know something. I don't expect you to feel a certain way or to follow it blindly. I just want to be here, learning, sharing, and helping however I can. If that's enough, then I am happy." Alara's chest tightened. She realized she had been carrying a weight she didn't fully understand, the expectation of destiny. But his words lifted that weight. He did not demand, he did not assume, he simply offered friendship, respect, and partnership. "I appreciate that, Ethan," she said quietly. "I have spent so long following rules and traditions, but today I felt something different. I felt connection, not duty. I felt choice, not obligation. I think that is what this prophecy might truly be about." Ethan reached out, gently touching her hand. It was a small gesture, full of warmth and sincerity. "Then we'll figure it out together, step by step. No rush, no pressure, just us learning and growing." Alara looked at him, her heart softening. She realized that perhaps the human beside her was not here to change her world forcefully. He was here to enhance it, to make it brighter, fuller, and more alive. The palace gardens were quiet now, the soft glow of lanterns reflecting on the water. Alara and Ethan stood side by side, watching the stars appear in the sky above. The city below hummed with life, peaceful and bright. She felt a sense of calm she had never known, and a gentle excitement for what the future might bring. "Ethan," she said softly, "I am beginning to understand. Perhaps destiny is not something that controls us. Perhaps it is something that shows us what we are capable of, what we can become with the right person by our side." Ethan smiled, his eyes warm in the moonlight. "I like that idea. It makes me feel like anything is possible." Alara laughed softly, a sound that felt new and freeing. "Yes, anything is possible, and I am ready to see what that could mean." They stood in silence for a while, letting the gentle night and soft breeze speak for them. Alara realized that her life was changing, not because she had to follow a prophecy, but because she had chosen to embrace curiosity, partnership, and trust. And Ethan, with his simple kindness and human courage, was teaching her that even the smallest acts could make the greatest difference. As the night deepened, Alara felt a quiet certainty. She did not know exactly where this path would lead, nor what challenges might come. But for the first time, she did not feel fear. She felt hope, wonder, and the gentle strength that comes from trust. Ethan looked at her and she met his gaze. In that moment, words were unnecessary. They had begun a journey together, one of understanding, friendship, and shared courage. They were learning from each other, growing together, and discovering that true strength came not from power or destiny alone, but from connection, kindness, and respect. And as the stars shimmered above Lithuria, they both realized that this was only the beginning. A new chapter awaited them, filled with discovery, laughter, and the quiet magic of two very different worlds coming together, step by careful step. The next morning, Lithuria shimmered with soft golden light, the city sparkling as if it knew today would be special. Alara woke with a quiet excitement she had never felt before. Over the past days, Ethan had become more than a visitor, more than a curiosity. He was someone who had quietly begun to change the way she saw the world and herself. She felt a flutter of anticipation as she prepared for the day ahead. Ethan was already waiting in the sky gardens, a smile on his face as he watched the sunlight dance across the floating crystals. "Good morning, Princess," he said cheerfully. "Ready to make today unforgettable?" Alara smiled, a soft warmth spreading in her chest. "I am, but this time the day belongs not only to us but to everyone in Lithuria." The council had called a gathering in the grand hall. Today, Alara and Ethan were to present the results of their collaboration, showing how they had worked together and how humans and Lithurians could learn from one another. Citizens from across the city had been invited. The hall filled quickly with curious eyes, whispers, and cautious smiles. Many were skeptical at first, but all were eager to see what this human could offer. Ethan stepped forward with his usual calm confidence. He bowed politely to the council and the citizens. "Thank you for welcoming me," he said. "I know I am new here, and I know your traditions are very old and important, but I hope to show that even someone from far away can contribute, can learn, and can share ideas in ways that help everyone. Alara watched him carefully. His words were simple, but they carried sincerity and warmth. They reflected everything she had come to admire about him: courage, kindness, and a willingness to listen. She felt her chest swell with pride, not only for Ethan, but for the connection they had begun to form. Together, they spoke about the community festival they had organized, explaining the process, the teamwork, and the creativity involved. Alara described how the citizens had contributed, and Ethan spoke about how humans approach problem-solving and collaboration. He emphasized the value of learning from mistakes, trying again, and always considering the feelings of others. The citizens listened intently. Many began to nod, their skepticism fading as they realized the wisdom in what Ethan shared. Alara felt her heart lift as she saw smiles spreading across the crowd. It was not only about completing a task, it was about understanding, empathy, and shared effort. After the presentation, the council members spoke privately with Alara. They were impressed. The trials, the festival, and the observations had shown something remarkable. Ethan was not just a human visitor, he was a bridge between worlds. He had brought a perspective that complemented Lithurian's strengths, adding warmth, creativity, and practical kindness. Alara felt a quiet satisfaction. She had feared that destiny would feel like a burden, but instead, it had become a journey of learning, of mutual respect, and of friendship that could grow into something greater. The final ceremony took place in the palace courtyard, where the city gathered to witness the official recognition of Ethan's role as Alara's mate. The ceremony was unlike any Lithurian had ever seen. It combined tradition with a light-hearted human touch. Lanterns floated above, shimmering with colors from both human creativity and Lithurian elegance. Music filled the air, soft but joyous. Alara wore her ceremonial robes, shimmering like the morning sky, while Ethan wore simple attire, respectful but relaxed. The council spoke of the prophecy, of the connection between their worlds, and of the partnership that had already begun to take shape. When it was their turn, Alara and Ethan stepped forward together. They faced the citizens and the council, looking at each other with calm confidence. Alara spoke first, her voice clear and warm. Today is not only about prophecy. It is about choice, understanding, and trust. Ethan came to Lithuria not to change who I am, but to help me see new ways to serve our people, to learn, and to grow together. Ethan added softly, I did not come here to claim anything. I came to learn, to help, and to be part of something greater. Alara has taught me about her world, and I hope I have shared something of mine. Together, we can create a brighter future, full of understanding, friendship, and courage. The citizens cheered, their voices full of excitement and joy. Children waved their hands, laughing. Elders smiled quietly, some even wiping small tears from their eyes. Lithurians had never witnessed such a harmony between worlds before, and they felt the magic of something new taking shape. Alara and Ethan held hands, feeling a quiet connection that needed no words. They had started as strangers, then as friends, and now something deeper was forming. It was not forced by prophecy, nor was it dictated by tradition. It was a bond built on respect, understanding, and shared experience. In the days that followed, Alara and Ethan continued to explore Lithuria together. They visited learning halls, shared meals with citizens, and even helped with small projects in distant neighborhoods. Ethan's human perspective often brought fresh solutions to old problems, while Alara's wisdom and experience ensured that their efforts honored tradition and culture. Everywhere they went, people began to see the benefits of partnership. Humans and Lithurians could learn from each other, they realized. The humans' courage, curiosity, and kindness inspired confidence, while the Lithurians' intelligence, creativity, and discipline inspired respect. Together, they were stronger. One evening, Alara and Ethan returned to the Sky Gardens. The city below glimmered softly, and the stars above reflected in the water of the floating streams. Ethan looked at her with a gentle smile. "Princess," he said, "I never imagined that a simple visit could become such an adventure. I am grateful for your trust and for this world you have shared with me." Alara felt a warmth in her chest. She had learned something important. Strength was not only measured by rules, tradition, or duty. Strength could also be measured by courage, kindness, empathy, and the ability to learn from others. Ethan embodied these qualities, and his presence had changed her world in ways she could not have imagined. "You have changed my perspective too, Ethan," she said softly. "You have shown me that understanding and partnership can bring more than tradition alone ever could." "I am grateful for your presence, your ideas, and your heart," Ethan laughed softly. "I think we make a good team, and perhaps together we can help both our worlds grow." Alara nodded, feeling a sense of calm and joy she had never known. The prophecy had brought them together, but their bond had become something far greater, a partnership based on respect, learning, and genuine care. Over time, their work continued to inspire the citizens of Lithuria. Children laughed as they learned simple human games. Elders smiled as they observed creative solutions to long-standing challenges, and the city itself seemed brighter, more open to change and understanding. Alara realized that the human beside her had done more than share ideas. He had reminded her of the beauty of hope, courage, and curiosity. One night, as the two stood under the stars, Alara whispered, "I suppose the prophecy did have a point after all." But it was not about control or destiny alone. It was about partnership, friendship, and learning from each other. And for that I am thankful. Ethan smiled, gently taking her hand. "I am thankful too. Not because of prophecy, but because of who you are and what we can discover together. I think this is just the beginning." Alara nodded, feeling a quiet certainty. She no longer feared the unknown or felt bound by expectation. She felt excitement, hope, and a gentle joy. They had begun a journey together, not dictated by prophecy alone, but guided by choice, respect, and shared courage. As the soft wind rustled the glowing leaves around them, Alara realized that the most extraordinary adventures often began quietly, with simple acts of understanding and friendship. And now, with Ethan beside her, she was ready for whatever lay ahead. The stars above Lithuria shimmered like diamonds, reflecting the promise of a future filled with discovery, laughter, and growth. Together, the princess and the human faced the horizon, not as strangers, not as mere prophecy, but as companions ready to explore, learn, and make their world, and perhaps even beyond, a brighter place. And as they stood side by side, hand in hand, Alara finally understood the truth of the prophecy. That destiny was not a burden to carry, but an opportunity to build something meaningful with someone who truly mattered. Lithuria was alive, full of light and hope, and in its heart, a princess and her human companion began a journey that would be remembered for generations. Not because it was foretold, but because they had chosen to make it extraordinary together.